Welcome everyone to Tech Wildcatters August webinar. Today we're going to cover the hospitality and travel sector. So let me introduce Troy Billy, our investor relations person, and Troy, fire away.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give a little intro about Tech Wildcatters. So we scoured the globe to find the best founders. TW is a global program and venture capital fund strategically headquartered in Dallas. Over the last 10 years, our heart has been for early stage founders, raising their pre-seed and seed. And primarily in the B2B market, we've gathered data, tweaked it over time to perfect our cohort program known as TW Training Camp, to provide founders and resources that they need to build healthy, long-lasting companies. By keeping an open mind and focusing on aligning our core values with the founders, we have naturally created a culture. Tech Wildcatters is headed by Ricky Tejapayable, the managing partner. He has an academic background at Carnegie Mellon, but also worked for some major corporates like GM, Stern Stewart, Citi, and Motorola. And he has about 20 years of experience in investing. Tech Wildcatters has over 100 plus investments over the last 10 years, but we're gathered here to talk a little bit more about the hospitality industry, kind of 2.0, navigating this new reality that we find ourselves in. The service industry took one of the hardest hits from the COVID-19 pandemic. So we're sitting down with Sonya Petcavich, founder of Meowtel, and Daniel Peña, founder and CEO of LocalAdventures, to discuss how they the new landscape that is our current service industry.
Okay, thank you, Troy. So the reason that we picked travel, hospitality services as the theme in August is that, so August, traditionally, it's the last month of summer vacation here in the US or in most of the Northern Hemisphere. So there's a lot of travel going on, but this year, it's, as we all know, global pandemic. Nothing is normal, and as a technology investor, we want to see, so how is the industry heading? How do we stay ahead of the curve? Because it's not about what's happened last year or this year, but it's about what's going to happen next year, what's going to happen in the next few years, and how do we identify technology and technology companies that's going to be the leader in these industries. And if you follow one of our earlier webinars, when the pandemic just started, I broke down industries into 4 different tiers. Tier 1 is the industry that's directly impacted because of the pandemic. So people cannot travel, people have to stay social distancing and all that. So our guests today are gonna talk about this industry because it's the industry that's the hardest hit. While the other industries, it's more of a byproduct of how the economy is doing. So industry tier 2 economies performing poorly, then there's less spending dollars to go around, which also impacts the travel industry as well, because it's not only with restrictions that's hard to travel, but also if there's less pockets in consumer spending, then it also impacts that. While industries 3, it's more of utilities or things that's pretty standard regardless of how the economy is doing. But the tier 4, it's the companies that actually benefit from the pandemic, as in there's more changes, the technology needs to move faster, people work from home more, do things digitally more. Which companies within the travel tourism industry, the ones that are innovators, can actually be companies in industry tier 4, which actually have higher growth, actually benefit from how the pandemic's moving the industry. So before we get into our questions, I'll let Daniel and Sonya introduce a little bit about themselves, what's their entrepreneurship journey, how they started. So I'll let you go first, Sonya.
Yeah, hey everybody. My name is Sonya Petcavich. I'm the founder and CEO of Meowtel, and we connect busy cat parents with trusted and insured cat sitters. We're a nationwide 2-sided marketplace, and we're the only ones that are doing it at this scale, catering just to cat parents, which is estimated to be about a 6 billion market just from sitting services. So we're excited. We've had some hardships this year that we're overcoming and taking it in stride. So I'm excited to share more about what we're doing.
Hi, I'm Daniel. I'm CEO and co-founder of LocalAdventures. What we do is we're a marketplace for adventures around the world. We find, select, and validate the best local operators around the world, and then people book these adventures and experiences through our website. We've been doing this business since 2016. We've been growing pretty good until this year. We're a team that we're based in the US, but our headquarters are also in Mexico, and we have also employees in Colombia and Peru. So a little bit of everything.
Yes, our companies are global. So
That's right.
Daniel and Sonya both graduated from the Tech Wildcatters Accelerator program. So Daniel came to the program in 2016 and Sonya came to our program in 2017, which both of them, their companies have grown a lot over the last couple of years, but with the COVID coming in this year, how has COVID impacted your business and what have you done so far to adapt? Because adapting is key to who emerge out of this pandemic in a stronger position. And also, what are your competitors doing to adapt as well?
Cool. So I'll go first. So we were on track to have our best year yet. January and February were stellar months for us. And then March 16th hit. And I clearly remember the day I was sitting in our San Francisco office. My co-founder looks over at me. He's like, "You look really pale." And it was just because I was processing cancellation after cancellation after cancellation. Basically, our whole backlog of reservations had been cleared within 48 hours of shelter-in-place cancellations. So that was really scary. And pretty much within a week, we decided to go down to a skeleton crew. We went from 7 employees to 3. We eliminated anything that doesn't drive the business, and we've just been focusing on products. So we were able to release our mobile app, which was always a big goal of ours. And with all these product enhancements and things that are levers for us to increase our bottom line, we think we'll come out of this much stronger. And as a result, our business has been pretty steady the last 14 to 16 weeks. So that's been really great to see. Despite these times, we're still having cash coming in. What's interesting about our competitors, so we consider Rover and the dog people to be our biggest competitors, and they were so focused on on-demand dog walking, which isn't really relevant in this world anymore because everyone's working from home. They're home with their dogs. And even I flew from LAX to SFO the other week, and I've never seen so many dogs in the airport traveling with their owners. So companies will really have to pivot towards long-term dog boarding and kenneling. In the sitter home, as well as I know WAG is exploring things like dog training, dog telemedicine over the phone and stuff like that. So, our long-term vision become a full stack experience providing services and products only to cat people. So this might just help us get there quicker.
Right. So for us, it was really hard. During March, I was on my honeymoon. So basically everything collapsed when I was traveling. So I came back to New York and New York was already shutting down. So it was really impressive for me because I was in South Africa and things were kind of normal there. But then we had a lot of trouble because thousands of travelers were in panic. They wanted to know what was going to happen with their trips at the same time. So we had to kind of move the way the team was working so we can focus just on customer service and customer happy, give a proper answer and a proper solution to these thousands of travelers at the same time. So that was our first and our main focus when everything started. And then basically everyone stopped traveling, borders closed around the world. So our bookings already also went down a lot, and we just had to make sure we could preserve our cash, and we could preserve the resources that we had at that point, because we needed to see how things will unfold during the next months. So it was pretty hectic, but the thing is that everything stopped for 1 month, I think.
Yeah. So it all caught us by surprise. I mean, we first saw that in February it started in Wuhan and pretty limited, but in March it's when it really went global, and we just had to adapt fast, which sounded like both LocalAdventures and Meowtel did a really good job early on to identify what was going on and move to a direction to sustain and continue the business. 6 months has passed since that point. What were the moral obstacles to overcome, and what was surprisingly easy with all the hindsights? What would you have done differently moving from that?
So I think the most difficult ones in the past 6 months were, of course, having to lay off people. It's never fun to have to lay off friends and people that have become basically family to you. So there was just a pit in my stomach when I had to send that message and then have one-on-one calls with them. And then the other one was just, I guess, a founder's and the team's mental health. To have a full April of nothing happening, it can be demoralizing, and you're like, there's no end in sight. When is this going to get better? Like, oh my gosh, do we need to like shut down all operations? So just staying positive, controlling what you can, which is usually, you know, product or improving the service, and sticking to that. What was surprisingly easy is realizing how many superfluous expenses we had. I mean, we cut costs almost overnight by 67%. So just getting rid of all those services that we don't need, that were nice to have, and really focusing on, again, what drives the business, where are our most profitable channels to acquire customers, and just doubling down on that.
For us, basically adapting to the situation, we knew that if we continued working the same way as before, our revenue was going to be zero for the next, I don't know, 10 months to a year. So it was something really obvious for us, and adapting in a way that we could still generate revenue. Our business has been almost bootstrapped. We haven't A or B or something like that, and we're 30 people on the team. So for us, generating revenue was a must, and basically adapting the business to achieve that was a real challenge, and it's still now. And something also, the uncertainty, like Sonya says, the uncertainty of not knowing how much it will last, and the team starts getting tired, the team starts getting demoralized, and keeping them motivated in these conditions, it's something really to do.
Yeah, yes, I agree. Mental health is something that we all, as entrepreneurs in an organization, how do we keep motivating our staff that, hey, we're still true to our mission, but we have to adapt, and everybody plays a part. And some more active, some of our roles, we may be taking a step back, but it's preparing. So when the tides change, when tides turn, the industry turns back, we want to be in a strong position to be able to be on the forefront and capitalize on that ahead of our competitors, ahead of the industry. As part of being a venture-backed company, the objective is you show traction, and then you present to your investors why is it that the next round of investors should come in and invest in order to show substantial and then lead towards the next rounds. With the pandemic, with what's going on in the global economy, how are investors in your space reacting to this environment? And assuming you're still looking to investor funding at some point, what are the metrics that they're looking to see to confirm that your business is strongly positioned for the post-COVID environment?
So I actually think investors are very sympathetic to companies in the travel and hospitality space right now, especially when we are tied direct, or we're a service on top of that, which makes it just like doubly hard because there's a human component to that. And I think what investors are grading these companies on right now is what's your monthly burn rate? How low can you go? How much runway do you have? And then thinking about customer lifetime value is, okay, if people can't travel, if they can't book a cat sitter or go on trips, how are you going to continue to extract value to keep that number going up? What other products and services can you offer? And just tap into that current database that you already have. So luckily our investors have been incredibly supportive, including Ricky, during this time. And as long as you keep your burn low and have cash to get you through the next 24 months, I think your investors are gonna, give you accolades for making those tough decisions to make sure you swim instead of sink.
Right. Basically, I think what investors want to see is recession-proof business. If you can achieve that, then you're showing the potential of the founders and of the team. So that's something really valuable. And also, I've seen it with some of my friends in the industry. The valuations are dropping during this year in the travel industry. Why? Because, of course, there's more risk. So it may be a good strategy if you're capable of holding up until next year to start fundraising next year with better conditions, because the companies that are going to survive this pandemic in the travel industry, they will have a lot less competitors. So you're going to have a lot more demand because everyone wants to travel, and you're going to have a lot less competitors. So I think that in 1 or 2 years, you may be able to get the numbers that you lost this year. So
Yes. So this year it's not about growth, but it's about showing to the investors or showing to your customers, to the world that, hey, we're here to stay. We're the innovative companies. We understand our customers. We understand the markets, and able to deliver a quality product with good user experience. And there's a lot of levers out there that there's things that you cannot control. But as an investor, what I like to see is how well do you handle using the levers that you can control. So managing burn, managing strategy. That, all right, let's say back in March, April, there's no new bookings. It's only net negative bookings at that point. But instead of trying to salvage what the market that's not there, instead of focus on marketing as usual, focus on technology, focus on other things to be, or focusing on adapting the product. So when travel does pick back up, which it has in the last couple months, then you're in a much better position to thrive in the new post-COVID environment. So there's a lot of comparison between, so startups, usually it's a small team, there's not a lot of cash, not a lot of resources, while you're going up against the industry incumbent in the more old school players that's been around for decades, or even some of the companies that were a startup 5 years ago and they're Series B, Series C, raised a lot of money. Advantage that a startup in your stage, in this C to Series A stage, has over bigger companies?
We'll switch. I'll let Daniel go first.
So I think the one of the most relevant ones is flexibility. So being a small startup, you can test things really quickly, and you can iterate and kind of tweak your business model to things that work now. And that's something that a big company cannot do. So it's really difficult for them. It's going to take a lot of time to do it, and to get the results, if that strategy works or not, it's going to be months. till you get there. Like in local adventures, we were able to test new strategies from zero to have the results in just 1 week. So I think that's almost impossible for a 1,000 people company. So I think that a lot of these big companies may be more in trouble than a startup because you can change and iterate really fast based on your consumer preferences.
Yeah, agree. The skeleton crew is what you need right now. I also think in our space, because we're very much in a dog versus cat war, and I know players like Rover, they are trying to do cats as well. They made their announcement last year that, hey, we're the cat people, book your cat, but you have to do it as a dog. And right now, I know they laid off, I think about 30% of their staff. And for them to venture into anything except their expertise, which is dogs, I think that would be a misstep for them strategy-wise. So I think that will position us to be even stronger within the cat space as the dominant player. And like Daniel said, there will be much less competitors on when we come out of this on the other side. So I think that will all work in our favor. And then one of my investors, they also have another travel company, and they were telling me that this smaller company bought their larger competitor for $1 just because there was no way for this larger company to survive. So it opens up really weird, crazy opportunities that you just have to take advantage of to make yourself stronger in better positions.
Yes, totally agree. So by being small, you're also more agile, more nimble, and you're able to move faster. And also you have less to lose in terms of a legacy business, because if you're a huge company with a lot of customers and your old business model, sometimes by adapting a new model, are you also killing off your old business model, which used to be a cash cow, which you're hoping for recovery, but if you entirely move your customers towards the new revenue stream, then what's going to happen? So there's a lot more to think about, a lot more at stake for these companies, and sometimes they hesitate, or sometimes just from a governance standpoint, it's hard to roll down to 1,000 employees. They'll say, all right, so we're going to move to this, we're going to move to that. But for startups, that's why I love working with startups in this stage. Is you can just move so fast, and there's a lot of room for innovation. Before we get into the next question, I like to remind the audience that there's a Q&A function. Feel free to leave questions over there, and we're going to ask our panelists. As we're waiting for the questions to trickle in, let's look more future. So we're coming towards second half of the year, getting into halfway through Q3. We're all planning for what's going to happen in 2021, 2022. How do you see the hospitality industry heading over the next few years?
Daniel, I'll let you go first again.
Okay. So I think things will recover. Depends on what kind of travel and trips you're talking about will recover eventually. We're looking now that small trips are already happening. So that's a very good sign about the confidence of people traveling. The international trips will recover as soon as borders are eventually opening up again for tourism. We are really confident that in 2021 things will be getting to that point. We're having more and more bookings for next year. So in terms of the consumer, we can notice that they are really confident that things are going to improve. That's why we're getting more and more bookings every month. August, this is going great for us. So I think our perspective is positive, basically.
Yeah, I'm pretty bullish as well, seeing how steady bookings have been pretty much all summer long. I wasn't expecting that. However, I will say, knowing our customer base, so we have kind of 3 core customers, those who work in tech, those who work in the entertainment industry, mainly in LA, and then those who work in finance, consulting, and professional services. I think tech and professional services will be great. The rebound will be pretty quick. Entertainment, not so much. So our LA market might suffer a little bit, especially since we just saw the default rate on mortgages skyrocket back to like 2008, 2009 levels. So I'm a little wary of what the economy as a whole is going to be doing through the end of the year. Hopefully we get some stimulus going. And then I do think by summer 2021, or if sooner, if we get a vaccine, we'll be in a good spot. But I know people are antsy to take trips. We've seen bookings that are 2 to 4 weeks long because people are so fed up with being on lockdown in New York that they want to go vacation for a while and they need a cat sitter for a month. So I think, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah. So the breakdown of the bookings may be a little bit different because it's once somebody wants to make a trip, then they have to make it worthwhile. So it might be longer trips, or sometimes there's a quarantine restriction requirements and all that. So you might see more of a longer trips, longer stays for many of that. What would be advice that you would give to startup entrepreneurs, whether it be in hospitality or even other sectors, that how to weather the storm and what they should be positioning themselves going forward?
Go ahead, Sonia.
Yeah, cut all costs as quickly as you can. Keep the team super lean. Try to raise money where you can, when you can. Actually, there's a lot of money flowing in Silicon Valley right now, so that's not too much of a problem. And yeah, try to think about your target audience and how you can sell probably more products to them at this time and not so much in-person services, since that will be a struggle for months to come. But just, tap into your current database and leverage people who are willing to spend.
Right. So I think that, first of all, things will never go back to normal, I think, in terms of how we used to do things. I think that we learned a lot of lessons about how things should be after this pandemic. So travel and the industry may recover, but things will change. So you have to kind of learn how things are going to be in the future so you can operate that way, to things getting back exactly the way they were. That's one thing. And the second thing is, like Sonia said, basically cash king right now, survival. This is a wasted year, so it's just having as much resources as you can have until this thing goes away.
Yes, it's a year of recalibrating, regrouping, strategizing, and positioning it for going strong in the future. So we're running low in time. I'll start throwing with the last question. As a CEO, as a founder, how are your team dynamics now with the, I guess we're all working remotely. We're even doing this webinar remotely. Usually we'll be doing it in person, and then we'll also broadcast, but taking advantage of technologies out there and keeping a team motivated while we have limited face-to-face interaction. What are your challenges or advice on that?
It comes down to staying motivated. Times when we've been working on a big feature and I can tell the engineers are tired and just want to be done with it. So having the EQ to understand that, ask them if they're doing okay, have a Zoom call, at least a couple times a week, see them face to face, make sure they look okay, and make sure you allow them to get out and remind them that you need to go, we sit all day at home, go out, go take a walk, go for a drive, just breathe some fresh air once in a while, and know that this will pass. And yeah, I mean, and you got to celebrate those small wins. So when we release a feature, we, take a breather, laugh a little, and I don't know, there's not much more you can do.
Right. Basically, it's kind of hard, like, to stay motivated, but also you have other benefits of being this way. Like, you have more time for yourself, and you don't have to rush in traffic. But also, we are always trying to find new ways for people in the team to talk to each other, not just about work, but about other things, because we're not in an office anymore. Anyone's like kind of this social part of being in an office is lost. So we need to try to find new ways of keeping that friendship between team members going, and that's a tough one. I don't have like a special recipe to do it, but we have tried a lot of tools and ways to do it. So at the end of the day, we're still humans, and we need to interact with each other to have a better communication, and we have to keep that in mind.
Yep, that's great advice. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Sonya, for joining us today for the August webinar. Any last parting words that you'd like to share to the audience, share to the world before we say goodbye?
Just hold up.
Don't be afraid to fly. It's actually very enjoyable right now. The planes are half empty.
Yes, I second to that. I had a period of about 4 months without flying it, and it's good to be back in the air again. And the airplanes actually have really good air circulation, so it's one of the safer places to be at. And they're also enforcing masks very seriously. So there might be other places where it's not as safe, but on a plane is one of the safest.
Right.
All right, sounds good. So
thank you, Ricky.
Yeah, thank you for joining.
Thanks,
and
guys.
we'll keep posted on the September webinar topic that's going to come up. All right, until next month, stay safe.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, bye.
Bye.